Welcome to the Kiwi Mana Day.
Hello everyone, this is Gary here, and this is episode number 75, coming to you from the hills of the Waitakere Ranges, and from a podcast where we talk about beekeeping, gardening and life. And my name is Gary, and along with my partner we produce this podcast every couple of weeks. And this week we are talking to Bill Catherall from Portland, Oregon, and he's an interesting guy. And he runs the BeeVlog, and there's a great photo there on the show notes if you have a look at him, and he looks very happy. He's just about to install a package, so it looks great. And of course, the executive producers for the show are Lauren Hoffman and Aaron Jennings from Jennings Apiaries. And thanks, guys, for all your continued support, and thanks to all our Patreon supporters. Without you, we would not exist. So thanks a lot, guys. And in this podcast, you're going to learn why Bill decided to start a YouTube channel. And how the hell does he find time to edit videos and be the president of the Portland Urban Beekeeping Club? And we also talk about some tools of how he produces his videos. And there's a great story about a swarm catcher that I'm sure that you would understand, because everyone that's kept bees for a while has always got one funny swarm story. So I'm sure that's going to be the case here today. And my, I don't know if you've heard, but from the last podcast, my sprained ankle is still healing, so we're getting better day by day. So I'm hobbling around still, so it's all going good. You know, I just appreciate you guys coming today and having listened to this interview. It's really great that you've made the time to come along. And the show notes for this one are kiwi.bz/Bill. So sit back and enjoy Bill Catherall. Bill Catherall is a beekeeper from Portland, Oregon, and since April 2012 has been documenting his beekeeping journey with videos on YouTube on the famous BeeVlog. Well, Bill, they say the best way to learn is to teach, and you certainly have helped a lot of people to learn about beekeeping with your videos. So we've given the audience a little overview, but take it from here and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I've been beekeeping since 2012, and when I started, I kind of wanted to document everything from the very beginning and show all the mistakes I made and all the successes. When I was first researching beekeeping in 2011, I was doing a lot of research and learning on YouTube, and I wasn't seeing the kinds of videos that I wanted to see, so I decided to make some of my own and just start from the very first day. And my initial goal was that every time I would work with the bees or do anything with beekeeping, I would document it with video and then just show it. And at first I didn't do much editing, and I think that shows in some of my early videos. They're rather long. And eventually, as I got more and more hives, it became difficult to keep up with beekeeping and doing video documentation. So I changed up my channel a little bit and changed the way that I do videos. But throughout the process, I've been trying to do as much, showing what I've been up to and kind of what happens to a beginner beekeeper through their first couple of years and the things we learn, changes we might make to our style, and so on.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, I watched your first video last night, and it's the one where you're putting the first package into your hive, so yeah, it's fantastic. And it's great to hear that you're releasing stuff that you couldn't find yourself. So, you know, that's really good, and I'm sure that the audience is appreciating that, because a lot of people, if you're asking those questions, it's probably 100 other people are asking the same questions.
Right. Yeah. As I was researching beekeeping and learning, I was focusing more on treatment-free beekeeping. So that's been the focus of my channel. And that's what I was not seeing. I was seeing some treatment-free beekeeping videos, but nothing that really showed inside the hive or what to expect when the bees are drawing out foundationless comb. How fast do they draw it? What does it look like? Just kind of what kind of growth can you expect in a hive? And then there's everything else that goes into it after that I just wasn't seeing a whole lot of. And I think now I realize why I don't see a lot of that on YouTube. Because once you have more than 2 hives, just trying to keep up with the hives takes a lot more work and you don't really have enough time to be able to do the videos.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, isn't it? Because I did a little calculation last night. You'd be interested to find out because you've got 166 videos, and so that's an average of one video every 6 days.
Right. Yeah, I was doing about a video a week.
Yeah, that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, and how did you get started in beekeeping? What sort of attracted you to it?
Well, I'm a maker at heart. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but there is a maker movement here in the United States of people just making things of all kinds, electronics, wood, plastic, metal, welding, fire, whatever it might be. There's maker fairs. We have Make Magazine. And I'm not sure if Make Magazine gets an international audience or not, but I was reading a lot of Make Magazine, and I had so many hobbies. I was launching high-altitude balloons into near space. I was building automatic Christmas tree watering systems in my little Christmas tree, hacking together electronics. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and so it's been a hobby of mine to just make things and work with my hands, building and hacking. And in one issue of Make Magazine, there was an article about making a cheap top bar hive out of half of a water barrel, those blue plastic barrels. If you cut them down lengthwise along the center axis, it makes the bottom half of a top bar hive. And then you just build some wooden bars and you've got a beehive. And that kind of got the ball rolling in my thoughts, thinking about beekeeping. And I remembered when I was very young, my dad had bees for a couple of years. And I remember going out to my uncle's farm and seeing his beehives. So I had some experience and exposure with beekeeping through my family. So in around April of 2011, we were planting our garden, and all of the news articles about the problems with the bees were flowing through my head. And I remembered that article I saw in Make Magazine, and I just thought, you know what? I want bees. And I was ready to just go out and buy a beehive that day. But then after we finished planting the garden, I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I should do a little research and learning before I commit and see if this is something I would be able to do.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I always encourage people to learn a lot before you actually get the bees, rather than learning while you're doing it. But that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so you said your father was involved in beekeeping. Any other people in your family are involved in beekeeping?
So my uncle had a farm, a small farm, where he raised alfalfa and horses and pigs and chickens and rabbits. And he had bees. I never got to work with his bees. I was never really old enough. But my brother, one of my older brothers, did work with his bees for a couple of years. And my father, for a couple of years, had his own beehives. And then he developed a severe allergic reaction to them and had to get out of the game.
Oh, no.
And then once I started beekeeping, my dad told me that my great-grandfather was also a beekeeper and sent me a photo of some beehives that he had in Los Angeles around 1910. And turns out that he was managing orange groves in the area and had some beehives.
Wow, so it's sort of a family tradition then.
Yeah.
Have any of your children got involved in it?
My oldest son helped a lot with my videos the first couple years, and he was there also helping with the hives. You can see him in a few of the videos. But my other children are not interested at all. My daughter, she's always been afraid of bees her whole life. Now she's not so afraid, but she really doesn't have any interest in hanging around them. And my youngest son acts like he hates bees. Like, he calls bees jerks because they sting people. And he completely hates honey. He hates anything to do with bees.
Oh, that's no good. So he doesn't even like honey. That's unusual, eh?
It is really weird. Only my oldest son likes honey. My other two children have no interest in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I remember your son was in the very first video when you were putting that package in the hive, wasn't he?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's it. And do you have any funny beekeeping experience that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Probably the worst swarm catch, and I have it on video. It was a swarm that was probably about 12 feet up in a tree, and I had a ladder that was 8 feet. And I'm at the top of the ladder wearing a t-shirt and no veil. And I've caught, this wasn't my first swarm catch, and I was familiar with swarms being more docile and less prone to sting. So I have no fear whatsoever, and I'm standing at the top of the ladder with this swarm above my head and a catch box below them. And I give the branch a nice yank, and half the bees land in the box, and the other half land on me. And they must have come down stinger first, because I took about 12 stings in my arm. Immediately. As soon as they hit me, it was just stinging. And I've got, half a dozen people standing around watching and going, oh, how cool. And I'm up at the top of the ladder, and I can't freak out because I don't want to fall off the ladder, and I don't want to scare the people that are there watching, and I don't want to look bad either. So in my brain, I am just screaming in pain, and I carefully walk down the ladder, put the box down on the ground. My wife sees what has happened, and she sees bees clinging to my arm because they're stuck in needle first. And I walk over to the side and gently pick bees and stingers off my arm, and then walk back and finish the swarm catch. But that was probably the worst experience, and also funny at the same time, because I caught it all on video and it's there to see.
Oh, you'll have to tell us later on what the video number is, and we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of your videos, you can really see your humor coming out, and that sounds like it would be a really good one too. So we recently watched your one about dissecting bees, and I love the gore meter at the beginning.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. And so, what you touched before that you're going to make a hive out of a barrel, but what do you normally keep top bar hives, or have you got Langstroths as well now?
I do only Langstroth, and I'm not interested in doing that barrel beehive now. I think that would actually be kind of a mess. Even though it would be cheap and a really inexpensive way to get started, I see a lot of problems with it because it's not a standard size. And that's why I went with Langstroth, because everything is standardized and interchangeable. It gives you a lot more options.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think top bars are quite hard to manage sometimes.
I think they're great hives, but because there's so much variation from one hive to another, it's hard to share equipment or replace parts.
Yeah, or even get nukes for them, isn't it?
Yeah, you almost have to hand someone a nuke that would fit your equipment and then have them occupy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see you're part of the Portland Urban Beekeeping Club. How important do you think it is for a beginner to be part of a club?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. Having that support group available there to learn from and to teach you and to guide you, and also just teach you local information. Beekeeping is a very local kind of event where
absolutely
things can vary and differ from one city to another. And, using books and the internet is a good start, but it doesn't give you all the local information about weather conditions, the flow, what's available in the area, what kind of blooms the bees are visiting and what time of year. The way they grow can be different everywhere. So it's important to have that local information be plugged into a group that can support you.
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on before the show that James Moore goes to your club as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, give him a shout out. He was from episode 25 of our podcast. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you touched on in your first videos you had you're using all mediums and no foundation. Have you stuck with that?
I have. Yeah, I'm still doing that. I got that idea from Michael Bush. While I was doing the researching, I found his website, and before I even bought equipment, he was talking about using all mediums so that everything is interchangeable and it's lighter weight, less problems with your back, and don't have to do so much heavy lifting. Yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense indeed. Yeah, I mean, this year we've actually been producing all medium nukes for people. So
yeah,
it's a really good idea. And wow, we were just talking about your the BeeVlog, and you've produced a video every 6 days, and it's 1,134 days you've been doing it.
Wow, that's
It's
a long time, I guess.
It's an incredible achievement. So, I mean, I know with video is very difficult to edit and it takes a lot of time, I find anyway, compared to audio. So how do you balance all that with the real world?
Well, it was hard. At first, it wasn't too bad because I didn't have a whole lot going on, just had a couple hives, and my son would help shoot, so he would manage the camera for me. And then when I got home, I would just quickly edit it, and I didn't do much editing at first. But then over time, as I started to I wanted to change things up to keep my own interest going as well. So I would change the way I edited and probably spent more time in post editing. And then my son got busy with other things and couldn't help me anymore, so I started managing the camera on my own. And then I also started picking up more responsibility in my club. Last year, the president invited me to be the vice president because the previous vice president got too busy with other responsibilities and couldn't take that role on anymore. So I replaced the vice president in the club and started getting more and more things piling onto my plate. And then earlier this year in January, our president stepped down and he asked me to take his place, and I went along with I have a hard time saying no to things. So I accepted it and was voted in. So now I'm the president of the club, and we have 150 plus members, and our meetings usually range about 120, 140 people in attendance.
Yeah. Wow.
So they're pretty big
then.
meetings. And we actually outgrew the last place we were meeting at. So there's been a lot happening this year with growth in the club and taking on a lot of new projects. And so right now I'm taking a break from making videos. The last video I shot was the one with the dissection, but the one before that was even a month before that. So I'm trying to take a few things off my plate, and video is one of them, so that I could balance things out with the family and my other responsibilities as president of the club, and then just other things that keep coming up. When I shoot a video, if I spend an hour or two shooting video, I might spend about 8 hours in post editing it and getting it all online. I also do the closed captioning for hearing impaired, and all of that probably takes about maybe 4 hours for every 1 hour I spend shooting video, and that works out to about 2 to 3 minutes of video for every hour of shooting and every 4 hours in post.
Wow. And for all those beekeepers out there that want to do their own videos, what do you use to edit your videos?
I used to use, what was it called? Well, I don't know. I don't remember what I used to use, but now I use Cyberlink Power Director.
Okay. Is this a Mac thing or a PC software?
It's on PC, and it's an inexpensive software. I think it only cost me about $60 or $70. For that, even though that may not sound cheap, it's relatively powerful, and it didn't cost me $300 like some of the other editors do.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds good. Yeah, I've been using that Lightworks. Have you come across that?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's like an open source one, but it's it's pretty good. You can do a lot of tricks with it and stuff. Not that I do a lot of tricks with it, but
yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, we talked before about the syncing audio has always been a bane of my existence with video, so it's very difficult.
Yeah. I do all the audio recording in camera, so I don't have to bother with that.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's awesome. So it's hard to say no to people. I think a lot of people have that issue, eh?
Especially beekeepers. We're a very friendly and helpful bunch, and sometimes we just pile on too much, and then we don't know what to do with it all.
Well, this is it. I mean, the thing is, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to other things, that you can't do. So you just got to, keep yourself balanced, eh? That's the word.
Right.
And so what excites you about beekeeping, Bill?
I just love working in the hives. Every time I get to crack open a hive and smell the hive smells, the propolis and the honey, and hear the bees, it just relaxes me, and time slows down. I actually caught myself on camera once. I was talking to the camera, and then when I looked at the hive, my speech slowed down. But in my mind, I was speaking at the same rate. But when I was watching it later, editing it, I caught it. I was like, wow, that's weird. It's like I entered a time warp.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think you've got to be very present, with bees. I find, and if you're not present with them, they tend to tell you about it.
Yeah, that's true.
You've got to move slowly because a lot of beginners, they want to get everything done quickly, and it's not the way to work with bees.
Yeah. I also like trying out new things and just building new equipment and trying out new ways of managing the hives with different types of not gadgets, but support equipment. Last winter, I added some rain roofs to cover the hive because our big problem here in Portland is our rainy winters. And so putting some kind of a cover over the hive to reduce the amount of water that's just getting on the hive body might be able to help. So I added some rain covers last year to try that out, and trying different experiments with the entrance. Right now, I'm trying out solid bottom boards instead of screen bottom boards, which is contrary to what a lot of treatment-free beekeepers are doing, because I'm not completely sold on screen bottom boards and their effectiveness. And I've been noticing a few problems with them, and I want to see how a solid bottom board might work differently. So experimentation is my thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that gives you some topics to talk about in your videos as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I think you're right, because you're quite close to Seattle, aren't you, the Washington area? Is that right?
Yeah, about 3 miles from Seattle.
Yeah, because they do get a lot of rain there, don't they? Cause like,
not 3 miles, 3 hours from Seattle.
Oh, 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Seattle and Portland have very similar weather.
Yeah, it sounds quite similar to. We live in the west of Auckland, and we live in the hills, and we do get a lot of rain over winter. Like, it's really a lot of rain. So I think we're very similar climates, really.
Okay.
But we found with the screen bottom boards, you've got to have them off the ground, otherwise they get splash up off the ground.
Yeah,
you've got to have them. Yeah, at least 12 inches off the ground.
Yeah. I've also found that the queen is reluctant to lay eggs down in the bottom box when there's screen bottom boards. She tends to want to keep the brood up higher. So the bottom box often gets vacated, especially towards the fall when its temperatures are cooling and they're starting to contract the brood nest. I found the brood nest is usually up in the second, using my mediums, the brood nest is in the second box, and the bottom box is completely empty of all brood, and they start filling it in with pollen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So I'm seeing if a solid bottom board might encourage her to continue to lay lower in the bottom box, or maybe it's just a brood nest contraction thing, and it would happen regardless. I don't know. So I'm testing that out this year.
Oh, it'd be good to see your conclusions afterwards. And so you find over summer they're really good, but when it gets into autumn, you think they'd move up to the top.
That's what it seems like. And during the summer, I've noticed that when the swarm is building up, they tend to go a little slow when they're in that bottom box against the screen bottom board. And I'm thinking that if they didn't have that screen, if things were able to stay warmer and less drafty, maybe they would be able to build faster. I don't know. So all of the swarms I caught this year, I put in a solid bottom board to see what happens.
Have you ever tried a slatted bottom board? You know, those slat ones?
I haven't tried that yet, but that's one of the things I've been wanting to do as well.
Yeah, because I know Rusty, I think she lives near Seattle. She's got the BeeVlog Honey Bee Suite, and she swears by them, but I've never tried them here, and I don't know anyone in New Zealand that has tried them, but it might be worth a go because I think it just expands the bottom of the brood.
Yeah, that might be helpful, especially with some of the cross-combing problems I get in the bottom box. I found that I think the bees will do cross-comb because they want to create some kind of a baffle system to reduce the draftiness.
Yeah.
That's my hypothesis. And maybe having the slatted rack there might prevent that. And there's two types of slatted racks. There's the ones that have the slats that go parallel to the frames, or you can do them perpendicular to the frames.
Oh, okay.
Some people say in the hotter regions that the ones that are parallel to the frames allow for better airflow but still give that air gap at the bottom, while the ones that are perpendicular to the frames are better for cooler regions like Portland, where it can reduce the air draft, but still give an air gap and allow for better ventilation.
Yeah, well, it would be interesting to see what you find about that. And do you guys get snow up in Portland?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Last winter was very mild winter. We didn't get any snow and less rain than normal. In fact, last winter was almost like a spring. But the winter before that, we got some snow. It varies year to year. Sometimes we get a lot, and we're locked down for 2 weeks and can't get out of the house because our snowplow, the one snowplow that the city hasn't got to our street yet. And other winters, we don't get any snow at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a mild kind of climate, but you get a lot of rain. A lot of rain, don't you?
A lot of rain.
And tell us about this master beekeeping program that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, so Oregon State University is offering a master beekeeping course. They've only been doing it for a few years now. So everybody's kind of starting at the beginning. Even those, I know beekeepers that have 30 years of experience, and they are at the same level I am in the class. So they take you through 3 parts. The first part is the apprentice level. And for the apprentice level, you are assigned a mentor, and you meet with your mentor 4 times a year to go through beehives and answer a little question-answer checklist. And you have to earn certain education points and take a test. And after all of that, once you've earned all your education points, take your test and fill out the 4 mentor questionnaires, then you graduate your apprentice level and you can move on to the journey level. And in the journey level, you have to earn more service points. It's not education points, it's service points where you have to give back to the community in some way. And you also have to you have to write up some papers. It's a self-study type of a thing. And you can help others and become a mentor and bring other apprentices through the program. Right now, I'm working with Dewey Karen, who was my mentor, and now I'm his associate mentor to work with his apprentices.
Oh, fantastic. I think it's a fantastic idea, right? And especially for new beginners, they can, at least get some mentors and sort of, make it more of an official kind of a relationship, isn't it? So it sounds great.
Yeah. They're still working out the 3rd level, the master level. They haven't really fleshed that out yet because nobody has finished the journey level since the whole program just started a few years ago. That would be the next step, would be the master level, where who knows what happens there. They haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, I think I've seen similar things, and I think at Georgia have a similar thing. Because I think when we spoke to Linda Tillman, she mentioned about that.
Yeah, there are some states that do that. There are some clubs that do that too. They have their own master beekeeping course. But here in Oregon State University has kind of taken the ball with that, and they're doing a really good job with it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And anybody can join this?
Anybody can join. There's a waiting list right now because they have a limited number of mentors, so they can only accept a limited number of apprentices. So they kind of keep that number down so they can give everybody the right experience. They had considered doing it where they don't pair an apprentice up with a mentor and they just take classes and take a test. But they didn't want to kind of water down what they're offering. So they just went with limiting the class size so they can have everybody paired up with a mentor.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
But I think right now they might have capped things off at about 120 apprentices each year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another thing too, for the mentors, that's probably a good experience for them because they probably learn stuff as well with teaching the apprentices, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it sounds great. Cool. Now we're going to travel back in time, Bill. Travel back before.
Jump in the TARDIS and travel in time.
That's it, man, the time machine. Remember that show? It was a great show. We're going to go back before you started beekeeping, and you're going to tell yourself one thing about beekeeping that you wish you knew then. What would that one thing be?
I would probably tell myself to learn how to use the smoker and keep it lit. Spend time lighting the smoker when you're not working with the bees. Just spend a day lighting the smoker, keeping it lit for an hour, and then lighting it up again and keep it going. I think the first year I struggled more with that smoker than anything else and trying to juggle it and keep it going. I think I've got it down now. Works great, but it was quite stressful that first year.
Absolutely. And so what's your number one tip for getting a smoker to continue being lit?
It's all about getting the coals going. You got to get a good fire and some good coals, and then stuff it. I use some pine shavings. We have chickens as well, so we buy pine shavings for their bedding. So I have tons of this stuff around, and I think that makes a great fuel because it burns well, doesn't stink, and it keeps the smoke cool. But that's just the filler. Underneath that is the coals, and I use chunks of wood for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea. I think the key to getting a smoker lit is having a really good fire at the bottom.
Yep. That was the thing when I was trying to do it the first year. I thought you're supposed to just get it smoking. Don't let it flame up.
Yeah.
And then once I figured out, oh, well, this is just lighting a fire. I've got to get a fire. I got to get it hot. Got to get the coals going. And then I can basically put it out, and the coals will keep it smoking and keep it live.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can keep a smoker lit for 45 minutes to an hour now just using that method.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can. And the fun thing is when you're driving home, it starts like smoking again.
Yeah.
That's when you've reached the master level of smoker lighters.
Yeah.
when people pull you over because they say, "Oh, your car's full of smoke."
Well, that's what I have to do because I have 10 hives in 5 different locations right now.
Yeah.
And so when I go and I'm doing an inspection on all of them, I like to keep the smoker lit so I don't have to keep lighting at each location. And I just throw it in the back of the truck and drive down the street with plumes of smoke coming out the back of the truck.
Yeah, no, I've got an old ammo can from an Army Superstore, and I put it in there so at least it doesn't get hot in the car anyway.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The other thing is you can put corks in them, apparently. That works.
Uh-huh.
That would probably put it out, I'd say.
I put the cork in it to kill it, but because I've tried that, when I put the cork in it as I'm moving to the next spot, it's out by the time I get over there. Even though it's a 5-minute drive, it's out, and I have to relight it.
Yeah, do you have like a open bed truck, or is it like a sealed cabin sort of truck?
It does have a cover. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off, depending on the season and what I have to haul in it.
Yeah.
If I have to haul something that the cover just gets in the way, I take the cover off. Sometimes it takes me months to put it back on. But I have a cinder block in the back of the truck that I hang the smoker on.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It doesn't rattle around back there or roll around.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And have you got a video on your site about how to light a smoker?
I do. I think in the first year I was showing how I was lighting it and doing it wrong. And then later I showed a newer video of how I have changed up my method and my fuel and do a better job of it now. I think I might have to make another video and update it because it's been a while since I did a video on how to light the smoker.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good one. And so what do you see a lot of the biggest mistake beginners making in the club or people that you're mentoring?
Oh, wow. I think, well, there's so many mistakes that beginners make. We all do it.
Yeah.
But I think the number one mistake is freaking out and just going into a panic when something goes wrong. We have a very active Facebook group in our club, and I see a lot of people posting questions where they're good questions, but they're kind of in a freak out mode where they think that if they don't get this fixed right now, then they're doing something wrong and they're going to kill the bees and it's going to be a disaster, when you just need to calm down and breathe and take a moment, think about it. They'll probably be okay. It's probably not that big of a problem. I see a lot of new beekeepers who think that when they're doing an inspection that they're supposed to find the queen, and if they don't see the queen, then she must not be in there, and then they freak out, and it's just a lot of that.
Yeah, I often tell people you don't need to see the queen, you just need to see evidence of the queen, don't you?
Yeah. Did you see eggs? Do you see open brood? If so, you probably got a queen in there and everything's good.
Yeah, because in the height of summer, sometimes it's impossible to find the queen.
It is, yeah. I rarely see the queen. Today I was over teaching a class. We have an urban, organic, community-owned farm in Portland called Zenger Farm.
Yeah.
And our club manages the bees for them. And we also use it as our teaching apiary. And we are, every first and third Saturday, we have day there where we work on the hives and work on the farm and do things for the bees. And I was helping to substitute for someone who couldn't make it to the class today. And they asked me to teach about treatment-free beekeeping and to do an inspection on a few of the hives. And while I was there, I was telling them, yeah, when you're in a hive, you don't need to find the queen. You just need to look for the eggs. And if there's eggs, you've got a queen. And you're good to go.
Absolutely. And so what do you think's the biggest issue facing bees in the Portland area at the moment?
Our winters are really hard here. And I think that trying to figure out how to configure the hive so that we get good moisture ventilation, but also not making it drafty and cold. There has to be a balance there where we're letting the water out and trying to prevent more water from getting in while also, keeping it comfortable and warm for the bees. So I think that there's a lot that people need to try, and I've been trying some things using quilt boxes, the rain covers, tilting the hives, getting them up off the ground so they're away from that ground moisture, and away from that rain splash that you were talking about.
Yeah,
there's so many things I think that we need to do differently in our environment that you can't do in Arizona or California or don't need to do in those regions, and it's just you got to figure it out.
How do you find those quilt levels?
I really like the quilt boxes.
Yeah, quilt boxes.
Yeah, I really like them. They're good for winter, but not for me. They're not good for spring and summer because they give a home and a nest for ants, and we get a lot of ants building, their nests up in there. So I take them off after winter and put on just the regular cover.
Yeah,
but I really like them. I think they do really keep things dry. When I first started using them a couple winters ago, I found that even though a hive may have died, if it had a quilt box on it, it wasn't wet inside. I've found hives that had so much water that the combs were filled with water, and that's what would have killed the hive was all that moisture. But when I have the quilt boxes on, they don't get all that moisture buildup.
Yeah, I find they work really well too because we got that idea from the Honey Bee Sweet blog, and I think it's got some real merit. But you're right, you do get insects living in there as well. Yeah.
I tried leaving it on during the summer, and it just didn't work out.
No.
Every time I get into the hive, I'd get ants all over me, and the bees hate the ants, and they were flying around and dive bombing the ants, and it was a mess.
Oh yeah, I've had that because we often get the hive quilt or the what do you call it, the inner cover at the top below the roof. We often get ants living in there, like huge nests. Yeah. Because the bees can't go up there, so it doesn't bother them. So, they never really mix until you accidentally shake it off in front of the hive sometimes. No.
I opened a hive last weekend and I found a whole bunch of earwigs. I don't know if you have earwigs in your area.
We do, yep.
Yeah, I found probably 100 hiding in the corner. I don't know if the bees bother, I don't know if they bother the bees or if the bees are bothered by them. And I shook them out anyway because I just didn't want them all over me. But it was really kind of weird and freaky.
Yeah, we sometimes get we have bush cockroaches here, and they sometimes live in the lid as well. So it's a multicultural place, the beehive.
It is, yeah. I get spiders. All kinds, yeah.
Oh, yeah, get spiders and they try and trap the bees. It's not good. So try and destroy the spider webs. Oh, yes, we just touched on pests there, but what other pests do you guys have to deal with, and how do you control them? Because, I mean, you mentioned you're treatment-free, so do you have any issues with varroa mites at all?
Yeah, varroa mites are a big problem here. That's our number one pest, are the varroa mites. And as treatment-free beekeeper, I don't do anything to control them other than I've tried screen bottom boards. I don't think they make a difference because I've had hives get a huge varroa infestation even with the screen bottom board. And so the only thing that I do is I let the hives that have the weak genetics die out, and the strong hives I split and make more of them.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to do it. Yeah, it's kind of like the breed from the survivors kind of method, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool. And what's your plans for this season?
Oh, just try to keep on top of things. Our spring came early this year. We had about a 2 to 3 week head start on spring and everything. We're just trying to play catch up at this point. I had one hive swarm 4 times because I just wasn't on top of it and wasn't ready that early for them to be ready that early.
Yeah.
And, but they're still fine. They're starting to bounce back from that huge loss. And I caught 2 of the swarms, so it wasn't a big loss on my part.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because our spring started late here.
Yeah, we're all of the blossoms since I think about February, about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule. Our June flow is starting right now.
Wow, well that's good. Yeah, no, you've got to keep on top of them, because they go crazy. So how many hives are you running at the moment?
I have 10, 6 that I overwintered, and 4 that I caught swarms. And I'm going to try what I did last year of keeping them strong through the flow, and then after the flow, split them, and then overwinter the nukes. That almost worked well for me last year, but I made the mistake of splitting a hive that I thought was strong and then doing mite counts and seeing that they had a huge infestation. And all of the splits and the mother hive died over winter. But another hive that I split was a good one. One of the nukes for some reason had a queen problem, and I don't know why they died out, but they survived the winter. But then after winter, something had happened with the queen, and they shrank in numbers and size. And I was going to combine them, but by the time I got to it, they had all left and they're all dead. But the other one nuke that survived was busting at the seams and was so strong, and right now is still strong. I've been supering it, and they've been just bringing in tons of honey. So if I can do that again with a couple more hives, I think that it would be a very successful thing.
Yeah, they sound like a great hive. Have you split that hive at all this season?
No, I haven't done any splits yet because I don't have the equipment, and I'm trying to hold off on doing splits until the July.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The flow is over and all the honey is in, and then split them while there's still enough drones in the area for the queens to mate, and then see if I can overwinter the nukes.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, well, it's been fantastic talking to you, Bill. I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. And so what's the best way for listeners to get in touch with you?
Oh, they can go to my channel, youtube.com/thebeevlog, VLOG. And you can leave messages there, or you can message me through YouTube. That's really kind of the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they can come along to the Portland Beekeeping Club.
Or they can come to the Portland Urban Beekeepers Club meetings. We meet the first Wednesday of every month at the Alberta Abbey in Portland.
Fantastic. Well, I'll include all those links in the show notes, and the show notes for this podcast, guys, it will be kiwimana.co.nz/Bill. So thanks again, Bill, for coming on the show, and we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that was good. I enjoyed talking to Bill there. We actually ended up talking for about another half an hour afterwards, so it was a very in-depth conversation, and that was great. So I really appreciate Bill coming on the show, and the show notes for this one will be kiwimana.co.nz/Bill. So I really appreciate if you could leave some comments on the show notes. That'd be awesome. Anyway, we'll sign off now. This has been a long conversation, and we'll be out with another podcast in a couple of weeks. So thanks so much for listening, guys. We really, really appreciate you guys supporting us and listening to the show. We'll see you later, eh?